Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel. Here's a headline from the Crypto Basic. XRP price to soar as expert says Ripple v SEC case is over. And they're referencing the most recent perspective from attorney Jeremy Hogan. And he does state that for all intents and purposes, the SEC v Ripple case is over, and he articulates why. Now, as far as appeal, it actually could happen. And he lays out the scenarios that may unfold here, but he says, you know, the SEC, they've only got about a 14% chance of winning on appeal, and that's about it. So just going to run through this real quick. But before going any further, I do want to be clear. I do not have a financial background of any kind. I am not offering financial advice, and you definitely should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. I'm just an enthusiast who enjoys making YouTube videos about crypto-related topics, but just as a hobby and just for fun. Now, as far as what the Crypto Basic headline here is, you know, XRP price to soar. Is there anybody out there that doesn't agree with that? Now that XRP is legal clarity, when this market really kicks off, is there anybody out there listening that doesn't think that XRP is going to absolutely rocket and melt faces? Seriously, if you think it's not, feel free to tell me in the comment section below and articulate your reason why. I just find it hard to fathom that being the case once the market actually heats up. And of course, I do acknowledge that XRP has never run and hit a new all-time high without Bitcoin leading the market and having overall euphoria. So I do think that that's a requirement. But XRP is no longer shackled like it was during the entirety of the lawsuit, the SEC v Ripple lawsuit. It's untethered now. It can just run. It was clearly artificially suppressed previously in 2021 when we had that crazy run, which is why XRP is the only top 10 crypto that didn't hit a new all-time high. So here's what attorney Jeremy Hogan had to say. For all intents and purposes, the Ripple v SEC case is over. Yes, important hearings will be held in the coming months. Deciding a judgment of up to $770 million is, of course, important. But your time for hand-wringing over this case is done, in my opinion. And folks, I've been articulating that for some time because you'll still have certain individuals out there, are saying stuff like, XRP price is what it is because the market is not convinced that XRP is in the clear. There could be an appeal, this or that. You've had stuff from Charles Gasparino along those lines. You've had stuff from Rand Neuner along those lines, warning that, this most recent decision about Brad and Chris, their case being dismissed, that it'll just speed up appeal. There's going to be an immediate appeal, which is bogus nonsense. The idea of it being immediate would be nonsense anyway. It just doesn't make any sense. And I've articulated why so many ways for so long. My personal opinion, yes, of course this is over because XRP itself does have legal clarity. And the SEC has articulated that they will not seek appellate review on the status of XRP itself, which means that they're not going to argue about whether or not XRP is or isn't a security. They're going with what the judge says. They state that it's just computer code. Attorney Hogan continues. The SEC dismissed the rest of the case, so there will be no trial next year. The facts have been set. Nothing new or surprising will be coming out, which means the court will be issuing a final judgment probably sometime next year. Only Ripple needs to worry about that. So I'll just pause to say here again, folks, we, meaning me, Moon Lambo here, and you listening as XRP holders, we don't have to worry about this anymore. It's over, and he articulates what, in fact, he says stick around with me because he articulates what the timeline would look like for all of this too. So if you want to rest your little head a little easier when you go to bed in the evening, just keep listening here because if you just understand all of the circumstances surrounding this, it couldn't be more clear that Attorney Hogan is hitting the nail on the head. This is not something we any longer need to worry about. And so anyway, he continues. The case could, of course, settle any time before the final judgment is entered. That's one possibility. If not, both the SEC and Ripple can file appeals. The SEC has indicated that it will appeal. Fair enough. So, statistically, what are the chances of winning on appeal? Check this out. This is amazing, folks. He says, excuse me, luckily, we have statistics which will tell us. As you see below, the SEC has a 14.2% chance of winning on appeal. Here, I'll make this. He shared a little image for those of you that care to look at your screen here. This table is titled U.S. Courts of Appeals Percentage Reverse Calendar Years 2011 through 2015. So again, he says, luckily we have statistics which tell us. As you see below, the SEC has a 14.2% chance of winning on appeal. 14.2%. And I think it's fair to say that the manner in which the judge wrote her opinion, very fact-based, at a minimum, does not increase that chance for the SEC. Yeah, folks, I would hazard a guess, and mind you, find no legal background here whatsoever, but I'm just going to hazard a guess here that given that this is the average success rate in terms of appeal, if you've been following the case as closely as I have, and I'm sure that the vast majority of you have been because we've all been hyper focused on it, right? It was a disaster for the SEC. I can't imagine this going well for them. So if that's the average, I just assume that they're below average in terms of their odds. And Attorney Hogan breaks down some thoughts further, which to me just makes me think that way further. So Attorney Hogan says, and so, what happens if the SEC appeals next year and the appellate court sides with it in 2025? Because of the way the judge wrote her order, the appellate court would have to send the case back down to the trial judge for further judicial findings and determinations. As to other distributions of XRP, you can see in footnote 18 that the judge did not make findings as to the second and third prongs of Howey. Only the trial judge can do that. What would the judge rule? Who knows? But you'd have to think there's a chance she would rule for Ripple. And I'll just pause and note, he shared this screen grab. I'm not going to read it, but this is what he was talking about. And as far as Judge Torres not ruling on those other prongs of the Howey test, there was some strategery behind that. Attorney Deaton has talked about this at length also. Because Judge Torres, once she found that the claims made by the SEC didn't meet just one individual prong of the Howey test, she no longer has to address the other prongs. And she doesn't have to address the other prongs, she didn't, because if one prong is not satisfied, this is how the law works, if one prong of the Howey test is not satisfied, then XRP, those transactions with it, not a securities transaction. You don't have to then do the rest of the work if you find one. And so that's what Judge Torres did. Now that means even if there's an appeal, and even if it's sent back down to her, then even if it's overturned, she still has to then she could address the other prongs of the Howey test, and then what she'd do, and so she knows what she's doing here. She set it up just in case this should occur. What she'd then do, if it comes back to her to make that decision, is she'd come to the same conclusion, but she'd have additional rationale based on one or two other prongs of the Howey test. That's what she'd do. It's really brilliant. Like the SEC screwed here. Like, let's just be real. The SEC's absolutely screwed. This is not going well for them. It is a disaster for them. This is a flaming dumpster fire of a lawsuit for them specifically. Now, for us, it's absolutely magnificent. Anyway, Attorney Hogan continues. Same thing with programmatic sales. If the appellate court agrees with the SEC, it would still have to send that issue back down to the trial court for further determinations. Footnote 20, for example, suggests that the judge is given some credence to Ripple's fair notice defense. And he shared this screen grab. I'm not going to read it. You can pause and read it if you want to. And I'll also note here, though, as far as the things that would be considered, should there actually be an appeal? It's being reviewed, right? Even if it goes well for the SEC, that does nothing to change the legal status of XRP. And even if the regarding the programmatic sales, if that doesn't go favorably here for Ripple, and it does go favorable for the SEC, that wouldn't impact us either. That would only apply to the transactions specifically cited that Ripple was a part of. So it still wouldn't hurt us. That's why I keep saying, folks, we are in the clear. We're good to go. Barring some crazy unforeseen circumstance, it's over for us. We made it. We don't have to worry about this crap. Anyway, Attorney Hogan continues. And then, after the judge makes a second round of judicial determinations, it can then be appealed again up to the appellate court, now with all issues ruled on. And only then could the SEC win on appeal and leave with a victory, unless Ripple appeals to the Supreme Court. So, the SEC has to, number one, not settle. Number two, win on appeal, 14% chance. Number three, get through more hearings. Number four, win on another appeal. Or something like that. And that's not even taking into account a possible act of Congress, a change of political regime, or something else I can't think of. And folks, and that's an excellent point. We can see that things have changed, even with Congress, even as slow and incompetent as Congress is. It still is clearly directionally heading the right way, and there will be something from Congress at some point in time. And with how long this, potential appeal would take, well, Kim Jong-un's probably going to be out of power. You could have a totally different administration in charge. Congress could have progressed, and then, like Attorney Hogan says, there could have been something else he hadn't even considered. It's over, folks. This work, we are golden. We are absolutely golden, which is a true delight to be sharing with you after the years of stress that we all had to go through from all this. Attorney Hogan continues. So that's why I say that for all intents and purposes, this case is over. Unlike on TV, a lot of legal cases end with a whimper and drag on for a year after the main issues have been locked in. And I think that's what we will see here. I have now done the math and, taking into account the chance of a win on appeal, surviving more litigation, and still being able to maintain the lawsuit against Ripple in 2026, the chance of the SEC winning is exactly 2.367%. You gotta love that. Very precise, Attorney Hogan. He says, same odds as the Jets winning the Super Bowl. Fantastic. So, folks, sleep easy here. Ain't nothing to worry about. I'm not a financial advisor. You should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo.